If this works first time, then I'm going to click go live, and let's see if it works first time, because it's been a while since we've been back. And I know how you like these intros where it's kind of nebulous as to whether or not we're live. Are we live?
Oh, hello. I didn't see you come in.
Ah, hello. Right, someone needs to check that. In the chat, please. Can you hear us? Both.
Yes, see you.
Because I don't want to do monologues all evening.
Yeah, right.
I'm waiting for the chat.
Okay, I can hear us both.
Yes. I trust you. This is good.
I see hi chat. There we go. The chat wasn't coming in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy 2024, which feels a bit late, but
it does, right? I'm in an hour with the thumbnail.
Happy New Year, Mikey. Merry Christmas. Year. Happy Halloween.
We're doing Canopy
how was
New
your
Year.
Easter?
It's a new thing. Canopy New Year.
Yep.
Yes, we're both alive, both well. We wanted
both live.
Yes. So we want to go through. I've actually got a more solid agenda than we normally have.
Straight to it this time. All right, fine.
Preamble.
Professional, even.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Let's just pretend we said hi, everybody. Hi, people.
Hello. So yeah, we've got a bit of an agenda that we'd like to stick to this evening. Obviously, ask questions, we'll answer them anyway. So we want to go through Jan himself. Then we're going to go through what's happening course-wise and content-wise. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we've been playing recently, which actually there's quite a bit of learnings from as well, as we're always doing.
Thank you for joining us. And
good night.
All right, so I guess I should start.
Go on then. So how are you, Jan?
Okay. I'm better than I was a few months ago. I am not what I would call recovered yet, so I'm still unwell. It's kind of that weird thing to talk about because I'm quite happy to talk very openly about what's going on, but I'm also aware there's like TMI. There's a point where just talking about what's going on with my health is going to just be like, hey, everybody, take on a bunch of my problems. And that's not really what I'm interested in doing.
I mean, ultimately, we deal with game dev, not like psychology and stuff, but it is important because mental health is a real thing, especially in the world as it is at the moment.
And I should point out that what's going on with me is a mental health issue, and it's serious. And I encourage you, if you have any issues like that, get help and all the rest of it, which I'm doing. But it also means that I have what is called an invisible disability. You can't tell by looking at me that anything is wrong. So if it seems like, he should have been really making content all this time, I feel like I should have been too, but physically I wasn't able to. So I'm slowly getting back into that position. And Mikey and I have a plan to get that into a more regular thing, which is we're going to start with 1 day a week and then increase as things improve. Mikey's going to let me use his office as opposed to mine. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but the key thing is when you're working from home, it's really hard to separate work from not work. And if you get yourself in a situation where you feel like you can't start working, a change of venue really helps with that. So we're going to give that a shot, starting, I believe, this week.
There's a very interesting... some people can literally sit down at a table that's facing a window, and then they move around to the other side of the table when they're doing a different type of task. And even though logically, that sounds like, what? You're in the same room, but you've actually changed your location, what you're looking at.
It doesn't help that when I moved back to the UK, I moved to a small rural town, and from there to a smaller rural town, and from there from a slightly larger one. I'm a city boy. I'm not used to this kind of isolation. Mikey's not too far away, but it's still a 20-minute drive, and he has kids and all the rest of it. So we don't see each other physically that often. So it's really helpful to find ways to get out of the room and, do things like that.
Yes. Rotaric, we appreciate that.
Yep.
We've got lots of problems, but we're going to try and cap it to an hour today.
I've got 99 problems, but I can't finish that.
No. But the balloons aren't one. What? Red balloons?
But a witch isn't one. I have no problems with witches. TLDR, I've been bouncing from waiting list to waiting list to waiting list. I don't want to get political about it, but turns out 15 years of austerity on health service means that waiting lists get quite big. But I am moving from waiting list to waiting list and slowly getting there.
Yeah, and as Jan was saying, we're trying our best to help each other and coming over. I haven't set his desk up yet. Don't tell him that. But yeah,
fine. I think a Wednesday is going to be mostly be set up and figuring out how it's going to work and sound
yeah,
checks and things like that.
yeah. And obviously working out how it works, because whilst I have a relatively large office to work in, which I'm incredibly grateful for, converted garage, we can't both record at the same time, so we'll have to plan around
Unless
that.
we can. I mean, that's actually a possibility.
Oh, that would be an
Ooh.
interesting course where we're both talking at the same time. It's like buy
And it
one
might be,
course, get
though.
another one free, but it's the audio
No,
edition.
I'm in on the same course. That could actually be interesting.
Yeah, that would work really well.
Well, we would have to write it around that, but
Mm.
okay, this is just me thinking live. Like, not promises.
I will interject really quickly though that what we don't want to get across this evening is that Jan is back and content will be here next week. That's not the aim of the thing. It's more Jan's back. We want to say hello.
I'm trying to be back.
Yes.
Like, I'm not John Wick yet, but I am sick of being sick. Mostly because the issues I'm facing. How to talk about this without getting glib?
I don't know
actually
what glib
don't
means.
care about how it affects me because that's where my mind is at right now. Like, don't care. However, it's hurting other people, and I'm not okay with that. It's hurting my friends, it's hurting the people I love, and it's hurting my students. Like, they want the content, that some of which they've already paid for, some of which they're just excited for, and I haven't been able to do anything for a while, and it's good to get out of that. And I do feel it's important to talk about to a degree because stigmatizing mental health helps nobody. But I also don't want to labor the point. Like, this isn't a pity party and this isn't Jan's back. Like, there is a middle ground that we're trying to find here. I don't know how well we're doing it, but we're trying to find it.
We're doing something, right? I think that's key more than anything else on that front. So.
And Mikey's been fantastic, and my girlfriend Jess has been fantastic. I went to see her and her daughter over Christmas, and spending Christmas with a 10-year-old is amazing, especially as my family Christmases are not what I would call warm, fuzzy memories. So, like, going there, just like waking up at 6 a.m, sneaking out to make coffee for my girlfriend, turning around, and this excited 10-year-old girl going, "Can I wake her up now?" Like,
I will take in the coffee.
that was a really nice thing. And the way I usually put it is I'd like to be a real boy again. Like, when my mind works, I am supremely confident. I mean, I got myself a green card and an apartment in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Like, when my mind works, I am functional. But right now, I haven't felt that way in a while. And I'm trying to get back to that position. So that's where we are. Course-wise, I wanted to go straight into the RPG. And Mikey pointed out, actually, we should probably start with Godot for Everyone for a couple of reasons. One, it's an easier course to start, so it's probably a better place psychologically to get into. Like, going immediately to a difficult course and getting stuck is a great way of going, I can't do this, Mikey.
We're trying best to set you up to win, right? Not
right. We want realistic tasks and expectations.
Yeah.
And two, it's a beginner part of a course. I should really have this thing out there. Like, people are expecting that. I do want to get onto the RPG, but I think starting the next part of the Godot for Everyone course is important. Space Invadex was a lot of fun, and I'd like to get on to the next bit.
Yeah,
I think it's Spooky Bricks. Have I done Spooky Bricks? I've completely lost track.
Yeah, Spooky Bricks is the next one there, which is the bat ball game. Acronoid,
Breakout.
Get there eventually. I'm not good with words, although I'm good at making words up.
It was very interesting playing No Man's. We'll talk about No Man's Sky in a little bit. Me and Mikey and a couple of friends played No Man's Sky multiplayer for the first time the other day, and poor Mikey was having trouble communicating, so we thought he was done with his quests and things, and we left him behind.
Literally warped to another freaking star system.
Yep.
I'm like, guys, what happened to No Man?
Durgan's ready.
Like,
no.
Yes, the newcomer was ahead of me.
Yeah. So yeah, we have strategies to try and make this realistic. Also, like, setting small time frames as opposed to like straight back into 9 to 5, because realistically that's not going to happen. For those of you who are interested, or that's not necessarily the right word. For those of you who feel you need to know, the diagnoses I have are chronic depression and suspected PTSD, but we're waiting on a specialist to be able to give me that. Which is interesting because it means I translate any stress as a direct attack, which is very difficult when you're trying to deal with deadlines. Like, it's easy to get yourself into a panic situation and just freeze. So that's the bit I'm trying to teach myself to get out of. Anyway.
Quick question, and then we'll get on to more
Oh,
content updates.
yeah, Belge aussi. I don't speak Flemish, but I was born in Brussels. I have to ask, have you played Baldur's Gate 3? Yes.
I haven't. I think it would make a very good,
Oh my god, it's good.
like, nice game for us to play as
Oh,
well.
it is one of the best written games and best designed games I've played in a very long time.
I was trying to get Karine, so Karine's my wife, involved in it as well, because it's one of the few games that has split screen still. Right? That's unheard of.
Oh yeah, I guess I always play it online with friends. The online stuff is very good, and the way they handle it is very clever. Here's what I like about it. So, you know, when you're playing, let's say, Skyrim or Fallout or any of these other Bethesda games where you can attack anybody except for these people. These ones are important. You're not allowed to hurt them.
They don't die. They just fall unconscious, I believe.
Right. Like, these are plot critical people. You're not allowed to kill them, otherwise the plot doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Larian Studios didn't go in that direction with Baldur's Gate. So I saw a video of someone trying this. There's a camp of refugees you can choose to help. And if you help them, the plot continues by the captain of the person in charge of the defenses giving you the next piece of the plot.
Yeah.
But what happens if he dies? So the guy goes in and murders him quietly. Well, someone else in the camp becomes a second in command. Interesting. Let's go back and save. What happens if he dies first, then we kill this guy? Well, one of the refugees steps up and takes command. Interesting. So what happens if we do that?
Kill everyone.
The plot just stops, right? And you carry on. And then when later on you get to another village, the relative of that refugee turns up and tells you something. And then you can kill them afterwards if you want, but you now have the plot again. Like, they put in so many like steps of, well, what if they decide to break the quest here?
Yeah.
That even like 0.5% of players might see this bit, but let's record the lines and put it in there.
Well, it's trying to be Dungeons and Dragons, right? And the game is
trying
to
Dungeons and Dragons. It's licensed.
But the game is trying to be the Dungeon Master, and of course, a Dungeon Master would react by doing something later on in the quest if you nerfed their campaign.
Also, shout out to the woman who plays the narrator / Dungeon Master.
The excerpts,
what's her name? Amy something.
Yeah, all the mistakes. Absolutely
amazing. I mean, the mistakes are amazing. Baldur's Gate 3 narrator outtakes. Her name is Amelia Tyler.
Yeah.
I mean, she does incredible work throughout the game anyway, but her outtakes are just beautiful.
She's such a charismatic character herself. Absolutely spot
on. And from what I understand, because Larian is well, at least before they won all the awards, a reasonably small studio. So most of the voice actors were doing this in the evenings after their regular jobs. So all the outtakes of the narrator are her slowly losing her mind after being in the booth for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which is just fantastic. But yeah, Baldur's Gate is an amazing game. And at some point, I do want to talk about that. I'd like to play it with Mikey and get his take on it, maybe as a recorded thing, and see how he feels.
Be a nice way of going through it. I really hats off to Larian Studio for actually doing what most AAA games seemingly cannot do, and that's release a finished game. Right.
I mean, it wasn't early access for a while.
I mean, that's fine.
And most games companies are like, most of us can't do this, right? And in fairness, if you are owned by a AAA studio, you probably can't do this. Like, the impetus is you have to release now.
Yeah. You're a spreadsheet monkey at the end of the day. You've got to conform to whatever's
from a design point of view.
Up.
Like, their game design decisions are on point, like really good.
I really enjoyed. I want to say Dragon Age, but that's the wrong thing. What's the last game they did that we played together? Oh man, brain.
No Man's Sky.
No, Larian Studios. Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
I love that game. The systemic gameplay. And just being able to do things kind of your way, if you wanted to, and hiding in a barrel. That's always fun.
Vertex, you're quite right. The TPK is a perfectly reasonable response. Mikey, TPK is a total party kill.
Oh, well, we experienced that in Original Sin 2,
Barotrauma.
didn't we? Or
And
Barotrauma, yeah. It's just as long as you understand that's part of the game that you can be
yeah,
completely wiped. I never, and we'll talk a bit about that later on with another game I've been playing recently, The Last Stand Aftermath. As long as I understand the mechanic of a game, I get it. It's one of the reasons I never got on with RimWorld 2. I didn't realize that you had really little agency. You kind of pointed them in the right direction to see what they did.
RimWorld 2 is interesting, and I have a similar issue with you because we've talked about this before off
Mm.
stream. I keep trying to win.
Yeah.
RimWorld 2 is trying to tell a story.
And if that's not apparent
Everybody
to you,
dying is part of a story, or like the key person you've been working on getting crippled and paralyzed and is now bedridden is an interesting story arc. It's not a save scum moment for reloading the game.
yeah. But it can if you don't understand that, and I didn't, then I was like, I can't play the game. It's not doing what I'm saying to do. But anyway, we should get back on agenda as well. I'm gonna bring us
Mikey
back.
wrote an agenda. Content update. So what is Mikey doing? He's sitting in a chair.
Yeah. So on my side of things, one of the things about doing what we do is we need people to see our content, right? And we have been creating a lot of content behind our walled garden of Canopy Games. Some of the stuff ends up on Udemy, which does a better marketing job than we have, simply because they've got more eyes on it. So what I'm going to be doing, certainly for the first sort of like 3 to 4 months of this year, is I'm going to spend about 2/5 of my time working on YouTube stuff. So I'm going to be working on game dev stuff. I'm going to be working on Blender stuff, coding as well within Blender. I'm really enjoying doing that sort of thing. And I'm also going to be focused on a little bit of music stuff. Now, we're not going to plonk all of that all on the Canopy channel. The way that YouTube works means that it becomes a channel for everybody, which is a channel for nobody. We want to keep this channel itself about us and about game development in general. So there will be some Blender stuff on there if it's applicable. There might be some music stuff on there, etc. So I'm going to do a little bit of a, I suppose, internal plug. If you are not subscribed to my channel, my YouTube channel, where I put all the Blender stuff out, that will be here if pasting works. There we go. And the music wise, now there are no videos at all on my music channel at the moment. However, I think it's Ricky over on Discord has been asking lots of great questions that typing can't really give an answer to, right? So it's not quite ready yet, but I've set up a little thing in. We've got a little room in the house. A lot of it in the house are musicians, so we've got a little music room with a piano, etc. So I've set up in there the best I can with the limited space and everything I have, where I can actually talk through some stuff, and that's far easier than trying to do it at the computer because.
I just have pictures of you like live streaming a cocktail party. Good evening.
I don't have any tails. Otherwise, I did ask my wife if I could buy a top hat for this stuff as well. And I'm just like, no. But yeah, if you want to know more about music stuff, as I said, there's nothing there at the moment. But this is the channel that I'll be posting the music stuff on soon. And of course, if you've got any questions about music, that will help fuel ideas to do on that channel. Now, it's not going to be highly polished. It's going to be me sat down and a quick edit afterwards. I want to be able to produce that sort of content quickly without it impacting the actual course production, which needs to be of a higher quality.
Yeah, and Foreigner, I appreciate that very much. That is very kind of you. So yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. We've talked before about getting more stuff on YouTube, and it's something that I've always
to the channels.
Something I always push away from just because I'm so bad at social media.
Yeah, and I want to. That's one of the ways that I feel that I can be more social with my social media is to be doing something. I've certainly got some plans for some live streams coming up as well. They might be more like this, where they're more interactive. The downside of this kind of interaction is we don't tend to get much done. We can have a good, deep discussion about something, but the project doesn't move forward. So there might be a couple that are like that, and there might be a couple where I've just got a bit of chill, lo-fi music in the background. What have you written? Oh. Anyway, so yeah.
Sorry, Mikey.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going to be like really not really low quality. They feel low quality for me because it'd be sat there, quick edits, done, next video sort of thing. But hopefully they'll be useful.
Mikey, what's your DAW of choice?
So DAW is a digital audio workstation. You've got the likes of GarageBand, Logic X. You've got that's Mac specific. Those
LMMS.
two. LMMS. We've done a course on ARDA as well as LMMS. LMMS is proving incredibly popular, so thank you guys. I did that in real apprehension because I've always wanted to make a music course. In the past, I was prevented from doing so.
It was a big moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that was absolutely fantastic, and everybody taking it on and going, "I'm making music," and that's exactly the sort of thing that I wanted people to get from the course. But the so DAWs, my two favorite DAWs are going to be Fruity Loops. Sorry, FL Studio. They got sued or asked to change their name from Fruity Loops, lest someone confuse a DAW with a box of cereal. Oh, it's a shaker. And I do like Reason as well. I love the fact with Reason you can get the rack and turn it round. And actually plug things in. And
I've not used it, but I saw a very good video on the design of Reason.
Yeah,
it looks really interesting.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, when you're first starting, it's very overwhelming about which tool you should use, and ultimately that doesn't matter. LMMS is more powerful than the first decade of tools that I had, and I'm like 2.5 decades into my music journey, maybe 3. No, 3. I'm getting old. But but it's not about the tool that you're using, right? It's not about whether you're using Blender or Maya or this or that. It's just about using the tool to create something with. And one of the segue here just into a little bit. So one of the things that I've fallen foul of in the past is getting sound packs. I mean, this might be the same as getting asset packs, but I haven't had the same experience with asset packs. But I get a sound pack and it's got like 20,000 different sounds. And instead of creating a bit of music that day, what you end up doing is listening to 20,000
sounds.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. So one of the things I do words. The one thing that I do to make sure that my creativity isn't stifled is to make sure that I limit myself. So for me, the sound of a piano or a guitar are two of the instruments that I'll go to start composing a piece. I won't think about the strings, the horns, any other sounds that I might want to put in. I just keep things simple. And that means that you're really focusing on the melody or the chord progression or the overall feel of the piece, not focused on which instrument sounds great. Later on, you can rearrange that piece and give it, an 8-bit sound rather than what you're going for with like an orchestral piece. They all have different styles to them. And of course, if you're doing something that's heavy metal or EDM, that's going to sound different from something that's more plinky plonk, ethereal sounding. So
unless you're doing
certain instruments do lend themselves to certain styles of music, so I totally get that.
I mean, you say that. I like
the fusion of different things. It's awesome.
I like hybrid music. I like when styles fuse together nicely. To answer your question, Daz, I've not used Reason, but from what I understand, it's designed to behave like an actual recording studio rack. So when you're wiring modules together, the modules look like they're real world racks. Yeah. And you can turn them around and actually run the audio cables into a patch.
Or with some of them, they've got, obviously it's not real control voltage, but they have CV outputs. So you can use the oscillation of a particular instrument or a triggering note to trigger something else on the rack. So it's almost like visual programming for music in that respect. And that's, I'm not saying I'm ever going to do this on a live stream, but I have been playing around with, and I know I've disassembled the circuit, but I've got a circuit board, and yeah, look, I've got an LED in a capacitor. It doesn't do anything at the moment, but I've been playing around with electronics.
It's just a breadboard by itself.
Look, I'm fluid in it, and it's anyway. So the look at all the resistors I have. You cannot resist. One of the things I've really wanted to do is create my own analog synth. So just sort of like a simple oscillator. whether or not I actually go down that path and do that, because that's quite an endeavor. That's not just stick a few things together. I'd like to do that journey.
I mean, I saw a project for they send you the components for a DIY theremin.
Yeah.
I can't
Oh, wow.
afford that, but that looks real good.
Ableton, yeah, Ableton's a really, I used Ableton lots way back when it was like in version 5 or 4, I think. But it, oh dear, thanks Vertex. Beer. So I played with it lots. It wasn't a legit copy, and I'm not one to say piracy is good, but when you want to learn a bit of software and you're not profiting from it and you're just playing around, I think
we should stay away from contentious legal things on video.
Nah, I'm fine with it. I don't do it anymore. And I'm beyond the statute of limitations.
I actually have quite a hard line on piracy. I just don't do it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I respect that. The little it's weird, right? Because we also create content, and I wouldn't like that to be pirated.
Right. And I have had people say, "Well, I pirated your stuff because it's not easily available." It's like, well, then contact me.
We can sort stuff like that out, right? If for some reason a payment method isn't
upload
available,
it to a pirate website and give it away for free, like that's money out of my mouth. I don't know why I'm eating money, but
that's
food out of my pocket, Mikey. It's food out of my pocket. My sandwiches are all squashed.
No, right. Anyway, yes. So to finish off, after the door question, use the door that works with you. I've heard good things about Reaper, by the way, as well. That's quite a cheap door. I
keep wanting to say Jim Morrison. I'm sorry.
Yeah, fire door, patio door.
Door patrol.
So yeah, a final thing on content and stuff. Upcoming courses and stuff. I'll post a separate announcement, and we'll probably talk about this more next time. One of the things as we're ramping back up again with Jan is I don't want to release a timetable right at this moment because it is in total flux at the moment. So we'll give you more updates about other courses and stuff as we move forward. Piracy is a distribution issue. Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things. I do want to talk about this, actually, before we go on to what we've been playing and stuff, because piracy, if you think in black and white, is definitely a wrong thing. It's stealing, right?
I think the thing is we're massively simplifying a very nuanced topic.
Exactly, yes.
Because piracy can mean a lot of different things. Is it, I really want to learn this piece of software, or I want to do this, and there's just no alternative, and it's the only way.
No alternative is,
and I need it to survive because this is my livelihood and all the rest of it. That's very different from, I like this, I'm going to put it up on Pirate Bay.
Yeah. So take for an example where I think that piracy is okay. Is say you liked a game back in the 90s. And there's absolutely no way of you getting your hands on it. It's not being sold anymore. You literally would not be taking money out of anybody's pockets. Is that okay? Because technically it's still piracy if you got the ROM, an Amiga ROM or something like that for a game that you once did own.
Let me turn that around on you.
Okay.
Is I want it enough to ignore morality?
But how else are you going to get it?
You don't need it. It's a game.
But I need it. I need Airstrike 3.
No.
I need it.
This is my devil's avocado, right?
Yeah.
Like, I understand what you're saying, but on the other hand, this isn't a food situation.
No, it's not.
Like, stealing bread to feed yourself and your family is very different from, I really miss Syndicate 2. Yeah. I'm going to download a copy. Yes. I hear what you're saying, and morally, it's very different from downloading a pirate copy of, whatever piece of software or video someone has made.
I mean, I don't have these problems with PC games because whilst it's not strictly true that you can now open Civ 2 on a Windows 11 machine, but you can get a virtual machine up and running in no time at all with probably a kooky copy of Windows 98 because let's face it, you can't buy that at the moment. So in order to play Civ 2. Civ 2 was amazing and I still enjoy it from time to time.
It's fine. But this is what I mean, right? This is a nuanced subject. Like, I think any one of these, like, if I want to play a game from the 90s and I can't, I should be able to pirate it. Like, maybe. Why? Like, what situations? What?
Well, history. You know, if we DRM the hell of everything, and you
If
can't.
you're doing an academic research paper and you want to do the history, that is a very different thing from, you know what I miss? The Hungry Horror ZX Spectrum
Well,
games.
nuances, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, this is way too nuanced a subject to just come up with a pithy answer. Like, this is tricky gray area. Like,
Tune
is
in
it
next week for
is
piracy.
it like Notch famously before he lost his mind was
The
saying he doesn't mind
Minecraft
if people
creator, yeah.
pirate, yeah, doesn't mind if people pirate Minecraft because they're not stealing from him. Like, well, yes and no. Like, this isn't. It's not that simple. But
No, it definitely isn't. And I appreciate these days a lot of. So Ableton has a free package, I believe, and a lot of the Fruity Loops, FL Studio, sorry, FL Studio has a free version, and it's full. You've got the free of the full version. The only thing is you can't reopen a file you've saved. So when I was younger, when I was using FL Studio, I used to render out all of my stems, all of the tracks individually, or all of the loops that I'd made individually, and then I had the music that I created and I could remix it at any time because I'd made these individual loops. And I thought that was quite clever of me at the time because back then I could not afford £400, I think the software was.
yeah.
They didn't have all their lower levels and stuff. So actually giving people the ability to have this thing for free, to just try it out, is great. And again, it's different. A program that you're using is different from content, right? You're
And I
not
will
going to
just point
continue
out,
using the same learning content all the time.
while Rotsrick and I are making piracy boat jokes, I will just point out the one time I don't think this applies is the golden age of high seas piracy, which was not actually just carjacking on boats, which is what I always thought it was, but was actually a very
Yeah.
interesting political, democratic experimentation, and in many
Yeah.
cases, not all, a revolt against empire, which I think is entirely morally justified, and I'm down with. So, actual pirates, I've less of an issue with.
Are.
But yeah, I mean, Ubisoft is not really helping the issue, right? Like,
oh, you have to
they
get
said-
used to not owning your games. I mean,
they
we've
said the
not owned
quiet
our
bit out
games for
loud.
years,
Like,
yeah.
we knew they were going weird, but
And no disrespect to the developers that work on things like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and Climb Another Tower Simulator. Those games, if you like them, if that's your jam, sure, get the thing for it. But
Michael, we're being told to get back on the agenda by our students.
oh, thanks,
He wrote
guys.
an agenda and everything. Okay, so we've talked about upcoming courses.
Yeah.
So instead of talking about games, what's next? What we been playing? Sorry,
said
guys,
it-
I tried.
what we been playing? So I'm gonna start with the hot topic that's going around at the moment, which is Pal World, that thing that looks like Pokemon, and it's really weird. So most of the initial stuff that I heard about the game was it's just rip off Pokemon. The first thing I thought, right, I am going to try it just in case Nintendo does actually take it down at some point. I don't think they will now. But if Nintendo does take it down, I at least want to have tried it. And when I first opened the game, I was like, oh, that's cute. And sometimes some of the animals are like, I don't really want to beat these things. I mean, the actual premise of the game and premise of Pokemon is a bit, really?
Well, that's kind of what they're doing with this. Is they're
Is it
taking this
satire?
concept.
Is it satire, right?
Yeah, and they're like giving them guns and
Yeah.
making a factory simulator, and like it's actually quite nightmarish.
So one of the first things I did, and one of the first things I tend to do in a lot of games that have more of an open world aesthetic, is I try to explore. And I didn't know any of the game mechanics here, and I didn't think it looked like Pokemon at all. It didn't feel like Pokemon, because the first thing I did was jump into a rock and realize I could climb. And I was rewarded for that behavior within like a couple of minutes of starting the game, because I explored and found an egg, and then I found this green glowy thing that does something, I don't know. And I thought, this feels more like Breath of the Wild and Zelda games than it does anything else. And then when I opened up the tech tree, I was like, this feels like Ark now.
I mean, I don't personally believe Nintendo can take it down. I'm very wary about giving any sort of hard and fast answers on this because ultimately it's down for a court. But it sounds very much like inspired by it. Unless they've actually taken assets from a Pokemon game,
I
I
think,
don't
yeah,
know that you can make the argument.
I don't think they're going to get done for anything mechanical within the game because climbing mechanics is a
Well,
climbing mechanic.
you can't copyright mechanics, but you
No,
can copyright assets.
but you can patent some. But yeah, the assets
Yes.
themselves. The fact that my children, we watched the trailer together because I wanted to see whether it might be okay for the younger ones that do like Pokemon. I genuinely don't understand. I missed out on the Pokemon craze. I was a Pog guy.
I was neither because I was slightly too old for both of them.
But yeah, Pokemon. The fact that I sat down with my kids and they named every single character that came up, I think they might be skirting very close to. Is this inspiration? Or is it IP? You know, you're impinging on
if
IP.
Nintendo do take them to court, which they can do because you can take anyone to court,
Yeah.
It becomes a matter for the court having to decide. So who knows? I doubt it. I think they're playing very hard and fast. Like they're courting a very litigious company, so they might go to court.
Yeah, I know from the. Okay, so with IP infringement, if someone can confuse the thing that you've made with someone else's IP, then you have that's like one of the key things. Do people think that this is actually a Pokemon game? And the answer is going to be yes, because everybody immediately goes, it's a Pokemon game with guns. So there is probably cause there for them to go for IP infringement.
But
who knows?
It's an interesting looking game. My girlfriend just took one look at it and went, "You will hate this." And I looked at the trailer and went, "Yup."
It's interesting. I thought I wouldn't like it, but I gave it a go, which is odd for me. I don't play games when they first come out because of bugs and stuff. As I say, it felt like Zelda. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the building mechanic, and I think it was releasing the mechanics at a really good pace. It wasn't front-loading stuff and explaining the entire game to you within the first 5 minutes. It was doing things in a really nice and paced way. But there's one thing. So you kind of build your base. You put down a little node, and it puts an area around it which you can build. But one of the things within the game is that they have your resources. So if you chop down a tree, at some point, it just reappears. And the same with a rock. So what would happen is my pals would explore part of the area because I hadn't built my base in a completely flat zone. They would go into this one area, the rock would reappear, and I'd come back to my base, and all my pals were just stuck behind a rock. I'm like, So it's a bit dodgy with the AI, and there are some real quirks with it, but as a game, I thought it was pretty nice. Some people have I've seen referred it to a bit like Elden Ring as well, Elden Ring-esque with some of its presentation with the big tree and all the other things. But I've not played Elden Ring, so that analogy or simile.
I'm not drawn to the game just because I don't find things that inspired it don't speak to me. I do think it's interesting. I think maybe they went a little closer to the source material than they needed to. The fact that they did it, and they openly talk about the fact that they're inspired by games they love. The fact that everyone looks at it and immediately goes Pokemon is like, it's a thing. But I don't know. It's an interesting game.
Yeah, I think it's an okay game. It had a nice mechanic. It had a really nice game loop, game pacing. I don't think
I know a game we should talk about that isn't on the agenda.
Oh, what?
Vampire Survivors.
Yes, we could finish on Vampire Survivors. We could play a little game. Do you want to play a little game?
No, I have stuff to do. I have to eat dinner. We got into Vampire Survivors just before Christmas. Around the winter sales, and I saw people on Neebs playing it, and I like watching the Neebs channel mostly because they make me feel very competent. Like the professional YouTubers who play games all the time, they can't play games and they make some stupid mistakes, and it's fun. So I picked it up and I said, Mikey, you should try this. It's like, I don't really like roguelikes. So I was like, here you go, I'll get it for you. It's £2.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so we played it together, and it's oddly compelling.
It is. It's a Bulletstorm game, essentially, right?
It's kind of Bulletstorm, kind of roguelite.
I
And like a
love the
lot of these really
30-minute.
good games, you think you understand the unlock path, and then you reach a certain point, and a whole bunch of extra stuff just appears that you
You're
didn't
like,
know about.
oh, yes.
Yeah,
It's the completionist in me realizes that this game is going to be difficult to 100%.
yes, very.
Yeah, it gets deep quickly.
And they've got some interesting. I mean, they've got a licensed Among Us DLC, which is. I thought it was fine. I played it in front of my girlfriend's kid, who's a big Among Us fan, and she thought it was fantastic. It was like, yeah, I'm missing a lot of references here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was surprisingly well designed game. Like the fact that you don't press fire, it just goes in its rhythm and it decides who you're firing at.
Yeah.
Like all you really need to do is make decisions as to what you're going to pick up, what synergies you need,
Where you're
what
going.
can evolve
Yeah.
into what, and what you're not bumping into.
What surprised me is how deep it got strategically, because you can make, for those who haven't played Vampire Survivors, you pick up to 6 weapons, is it? And you get up to 6 other buffs. But if you combine certain weapons with certain buffs, the final upgrade for that weapon is the super weapon of that type. And I got very excited at one point over Christmas because I like, Yan, you're not limited to 6. I've got 9.
Yeah.
Because some levels have drops of those weapons, so you can actually get more.
I did think so. The full multiplayer isn't actually in yet, but there is co-op. There's couch multiplayer, but you can use the Steam thing to dial into someone else's computer.
Yeah.
So you can play it that way. One thing they've done is, okay, you don't get 6 powers, you get 4 if there's 2 of you.
Yeah.
But if Mikey picks up this thing, I can't have it.
Yeah, so you got to actually
So you
communicate
have to
and think
communicate.
about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of fun. Spinach for the
Yep.
win.
Did
they hear us talking about Popeye earlier?
Maybe. All right. Mikey took a last stand after a maths class or something. What's this?
So
Story time, keep in on point, you muppet. What is this?
don't have to read that. That was me. Stay on point.
Where did you learn to write?
This is typing. My writing's fine.
Keep in on point.
It's all the letters in the wrong order. So I saw this game called Last Stand Aftermath, and the reason why I bought it is because they gave a demo. And it was quite a lengthy demo, so you got the whole game loop in there. And it's a roguelite game. Not roguelike, roguelite. And it's the first type of game that it's been explained, again, going back to explaining the game to your player so they understand, especially if you're a dum-dum like me when it comes to games. So you start off with this character it's a zombie survival-esque game. You start off with this character who is infected. You know you will die at some point because the infection spreads, and it's timed.
This game. Yeah.
Now, as you go through, you unlock knowledge, and that knowledge includes not getting infected as quickly, so you can go further. Once you completed a zone, you don't have to stop at every point anymore. You can just go as far as the fuel in your car will take you before you need to fill up, and all that lot. And it's interesting because it's the first game where I've actually understood properly what a roguelite is, because it was explained to me right at the very beginning. You will die. You have a timer on your life. Don't get precious about this character, right? Don't go in and think that this character is going to be your superhero. They are going to die. And the Project Zomboid was a very similar game with that. At the very beginning, they say this is the story of how you died. So you know the end point is you just die and you start again.
Yep.
Apart from Zombo doesn't persist your character traits, but this game does. So once all those things that you've learned, you unlock, and you can go, oh well, I've collected lots of supplies on my journey, so therefore my next survivors will have better tools to do their job. And I'm really enjoying it. It vibes with me because I know what's happening. I know that game loop. And once again, just like Vampire Survivors has that 30-minute cutoff, typically the run won't last any more than 45 minutes to an hour and a half tops. And sometimes it'll last like 5 minutes because you didn't see something that exploded next to you.
Does the game have a mobile game loop? Estimated session between 3 to 15 minutes.
No.
Okay. It has a defined game loop, but it's not that short.
Yeah. Well, Vampire Survivors, you can do it in 15 minutes because there's an option that once you played for a bit, you can go at double speed.
There's a way you can have less time.
Yeah.
There's also some levels that are slightly shorter.
So, I mean, I think having that short game loop is really compelling.
By playing some of these levels on difficult mode and lasting 31 minutes.
Yes.
Because at 30 minutes, the Grim Reaper comes for you in Vampire Survivors. But if you set up just right, you can take him. And then
another one comes along.
A much more powerful one that you're not even allowed to try. You just
hello, you donk.
Yep.
So yeah, I think the story from that is basically if you tell your students, if you tell your players what is expected to them, and do it in a way that's gradual and not inundate them, because one of the games we're coming up to does not do that. They front load everything.
Framing is important. And there's been a few games I've played where I thought it was going to be one thing. I started playing it as like, I'm getting a refund.
It's not the game I thought it was, right?
Super hot. I bounced off Super hot real hard. I know it's a very good game. It's very well made. I was expecting a certain type of game. It turns out, no, this is a puzzle game.
Yep. And it's much better in VR.
And I didn't want to play a puzzle game. I wanted to play a shooter. So I refunded it. Like, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And there's a few games like that. We should play Rogue Legacy, not Rogue Legacy, Streets of Rogue again.
Again, yeah, that was good. I like the guy with the baseball bat there, and just busts through all the walls. I found an escape route. The jock, yeah.
Okay, so what have we got next? Mikey.
No Man's Sky. So Jan and I we just finished off Barotrauma as like the main thing that we're playing.
Should we talk about why we finished off? So there's 4 or 5 of us, depending on the week, sometimes 6, who play once a week.
Oh, and I like that about Barotrauma. You can actually have a lot of players. If you've got a big group, a lot of things are 3 players at the moment, 4 tops. It's like,
But with Barotrauma, like some of these submarines can have like 16 people or more. And we got one submarine that was just too big, but we've been playing for a while. And part of the experience of this is it's janky. And that's not a fault. That's part of the experience. When you're stressed, getting things wrong in your inventory and dying as a result is part of the experience. It
actually emulates, panic. Doors are a terrible thing in this game. But trying to open a door, you're always running into the door. And of course, if you're real life, you're panicking and running around, you would fail at opening a door.
Or there was a situation the week you weren't there where we got this giant submarine and we successfully repelled a bunch of things. And then we realized that we're sinking. We go look, and there's a bunch of aliens in the thing that have been there for 10 minutes chewing the hull. We hadn't noticed. And we immediately panic, right? So that's very interesting. But after playing this for a few weeks, one of our players like, I'm getting so sick of this interface system. Like, I'm not enjoying it. It's like, we're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to feel stressed. It's like, yes, but I'm paying for this. It was like, you know what? Let's try something else. You don't like the control system. Let's play a different game. And for some reason, I decided No Man's Sky. Not realizing that the one thing I hate about that game is the control system. It's like literally the only thing I hate about this game.
So we played it on Sunday, and what did I do for the first 2 hours? I was a bit rude. The air was blue because... Okay, so there are some...
The first 20 minutes, we tried to get in the same game because we didn't understand the interface.
This is true.
It wasn't even network issues. We just didn't know how to do it.
So there are a couple of things that you kind of take for granted as a PC player. And I mean, going back with Bethesda games for all these years, the UI is all being like for consoles, and the first thing people do is download a mod so you can see more than 6 things on the screen at once. It's more than that. So I expect things like the escape key to go back. No, it opens up a menu.
Yeah,
and things like that. And having to... I'm so used to being able to select something and that be the thing. There's no... hold to confirm you're doing the right thing. It is
designed around a PlayStation controller.
Yes.
It's definitely designed. And unfortunately, they haven't changed the interface to PC. It's actually better than it used to be. Because now the
Yes.
build menu is on a different button with its own menu, which is much nicer. Before, it was this little thing that was at the bottom of the screen, and you had to go into here and to here and then back down again and back up to the next one. And that was real irritating.
So the control system, I think you can learn, and then it feels okay because you're not struggling with controlling the thing. And one of the things, and I think this is probably good feedback, it's not really a criticism as such, it's just the way it's structured. But in the game where you're trying to build something and it requires 2 subcomponents that you also need to build, I wish you could just click on that component to bring up its build requirements. But no, you've got to come out of that build menu, go into a different build menu, find that.
I mean, I tell you what, everyone says this about this game, and it's kind of become a meme.
But I'm enjoying it, by the way. I should put it in there.
It's got so much better.
Yeah.
And the amount of content they've released is unbelievable. Like, that is a passion project. But I found the multiplayer experience very interesting, because the way it works is, if you want to go through the quest line, and you're going to have to go through at least part of the quest line for anything to work. Like, if you want to leave the system,
tutorial, right?
You have to do it, right? So we decided we're all going to work together. So there's 4 of us. We're all on the same planet. We're very close. Like, we'll work together. So you get to a point where you have to refine some resources. You have to turn copper into chromatic copper. You have to put it in a furnace and cook it. I've made a furnace. You can use mine. Great.
Now my tutorial thinks I've already built that thing, is not telling me to build it.
And then 3 people went, it's still telling me to build one and now cook my own. So what this means is, we get to the point where it says, okay, build a base.
And we want to do that together, right?
So immediately have to go off in different directions to
a quarter of a planet away, yeah.
And from that moment on, we're effectively playing solo player games in the same place. And it was really interesting. And there was a lot of like sitting around helping people to catch up and do it. But it's exactly the opposite problem to some of the feedback I've been seeing of another game I've been playing this week, which is Enshrouded.
It looks a very pretty game. And
it's good.
My initial reaction to this game was, no, I don't want to play it multiplayer, because of the way it handles its quests. It's almost the antithesis of what No Man's Sky does with its quests.
Yes, so I've not played the multiplayer yet. I am looking forward to trying it. But what's interesting is the quest system appears to be tied to the world, not to the character.
Yeah.
And I spotted this when I thought, okay, I know how to play now. Let's just start over. And I make a new character, and all the stuff I'd done and my quest log was still where I left it. I'm like, that's weird. I had to delete the world and then make a new character, and that's tabula rasa. So what this means is in multiplayer is, let's say, one of the early quests is there's survivors. Go get the blacksmith.
Yeah.
If Mikey decides he's doing that, okay, we will have access to the blacksmith, but Mikey's the one who gets to have that adventure. Now, what it's designed for is, but you're playing together in a co-op game, form a party and go do this thing. You can have up to 16 people playing, go be a badass.
I mean, in many ways, that's how you'd play through something like Baldur's Gate as well. You'd play through together. If you weren't there, you would miss that part of the quest. So it's more about balancing, being able to play together.
This is almost like an frame as well. People have been saying, I don't think it's a problem at all, but people have been saying that the game isn't hard enough because it has a sort of very Dark Souls inspired combat system where timing and dodging is but much easier. Like, I've still died plenty of times, but nothing like a Souls game. But I don't think that's what it's trying to do. It's not trying to be brutal. Like, the whole feel of the whole thing is a beautiful late spring morning. Like,
it does look, and the build system looks.
Oh, the build system is
really
phenomenal.
Polished.
It's very good. I'm really excited to see where they go. And I got to the point where you can start getting specialized armor. So if you want to, you can start getting the wizard's thing with your big floppy hat and, the rogue armor with your hood.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it being a little bit more polished, I think, though.
I do want to try Deep Rock Galactic, Daz.
Deep Rock Galactic is a lot of fun, and the game scales properly as well. It scales really well depending on how many players you have. So things are challenging. As a single player, you get a bot that comes along with you, which actually makes mining a lot easier. Something on the ceiling, you point at it, off you go mine that thing at the ceiling. And it certainly it helps resurrect you if you're fallen, if you've been injured. But playing it with people is just it's calamity all around. It's lots of fun, and I again, nice short compact missions. We're going down. This will be a like half an hour to 45 minute stint in the cave to get these resources or do whatever we need, and off we go. And
Mhm.
then you level up your character, you get better weapons, better mining, or longer durations of things. And again, there are, I think, 4 different classes within Deep Rock Galactic. So you can be the miner or you can be the scout, and the scout has different abilities and weapons. So it's interesting how, as a player, you sort of gravitate towards a certain play style, you're going to pick a certain character. But interestingly, the character that I first leant towards wasn't actually the one that I thought it was. When I played it, I was like, oh, no, this is not how I want to play.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a different character. So,
I'd like to try multiplayer Shrouded at some point. Maybe we can do it with that group. And I know that my girlfriend wants to try it as well. Not least of which because the way the skill tree works, once you start leveling up, if Mikey wants to start going the tank, he absolutely
specialized,
can.
yeah.
Right. If you want to, go the assassin route or the ranger route or whatever, you just start taking those skills and getting those benefits. I think there's some content still to come. I don't know. I'm only like level 6, level 5.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. And just the building is wonderful.
The
It's a
build,
little annoying that metal scraps and plant fibers are like gold. Like you use a lot of that stuff.
so when I watched the trailer for it, I was very. First of all, the aesthetics are gorgeous, as you've mentioned. But when they were doing the building and the fact that you could build around and make your own size window with the voxel creation system that they've got there, I was like, that looks really compelling. It gives that extra thing, because a lot of the survival games that I played, Ark, Grounded, etc., even No Man's Sky, you have this like predefined. This is a wall piece.
Well, you do here as well, but you don't have to use it.
Yeah, so you can actually create little nuances, and I think that is probably what appeals to me more than playing the game, is the build system, right?
Oh, the build system is well worth it. I know we're running short on time here.
Oh, I'm going to interject quickly with also in the trailer when they showed like an explosive destroying a chunk of the ground and a bridge. Or
I had
whatever
that
it was
earlier. There was an NPC who was like the other end of a window waiting to ambush me. And I tried jumping up at him with an arrow and I just couldn't do it. It's like, well, I have these bombs. Look
Bye.
great. Just blew the wall away.
Yeah.
Not the whole wall, just that chunk. It was very nice.
Now you're exposed.
So I think it's one of those games where if you go into it with that mindset, where we're going to form a party and have some adventures,
yeah,
it's great. If it's we're going to live in the same world and see what we create, I would suggest something like Ark, where you can do that.
or Valheim is.
Valheim.
Valheim is one of those games where you can go off and just be the tree. You can be the forester for a bit.
Yeah. I mean, you can in this as well, but it means if people are going to have an adventure, everyone else should be okay with the fact that they're going to do it. Either do it together or, I'm going to unlock this tower, or let's go unlock the tower.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is fine.
I could see
like there's 2 things they give you very early in the game. They don't give you, but they let you craft. Grappling hook.
Okay.
Which is a lot of fun.
Yep.
And the glider
grappling
suit,
hooks always are.
Which is a lot of fun. And once you have it, it's just on your character.
Low on time.
Nice.
Yeah, I could see though someone getting the game and not realizing that's like the mechanic and going off and doing a couple of things, and it's basically spoiling the game for them and the people they're playing with.
It depends on how you're doing it. It's a bit like No Man's Sky. If you want the experience of we're going to do quests together, it doesn't really work. There's some things you can do together.
All individual, yeah.
Right. You can experience the things at the same time in the same place.
Yeah, but it's like it's my quest. You're coming along.
Or we both happen to be the same quest at the same point, but me completing it doesn't help you.
No.
So it's very much about the framing. There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was. Oh, Nightingale looks real good.
So Nightingale is the new Hello Games IP, isn't it?
No. Nightingale is you're thinking of Light No Fire, which also looks very good. Nightingale is the steampunk world jumping Fae magic Victoria building survival co-op game.
Is that the one with the ex-BioWare people?
It's the one I showed you this morning.
That I've slept since then.
Where Puck gives you some quests and you go off and you travel between worlds with cards and
Yeah.
yep.
Yes, the card generator. So the cards, there's a major and a minor. I remember this from the trailer, but there's like to generate the world that you're about to enter. The major is like what the world is, and then the minor affects the qualities of that world or something along those lines. I
There's a
thought that was a
bio
very
card and yeah.
I thought that was a very interesting way of giving the player agency over the world they're about to enter. It's not a random roll. If you need desert materials, you play your desert card, and whatever the other one does, I genuinely don't know.
Yep. So yeah, we are coming up to the point where I need to get some food in me.
Yes. Just on the Deep Rock Galactic, personally, I prefer PvE, where everybody's, unless it's a competition type game, if that makes sense.
I usually prefer.
I like team,
games.
and I like team versus other team, or team versus enemy.
I mean, it depends
players.
what I'm playing. Like Stick Fight the game.
Oh, it's just chaos.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Look at this big rocket launcher I've got, boom, and you're off screen dead.
I mean, there is a friend of mine. Every now and then, we won't be in contact for months at a time, but whenever we are in contact, we'll just play that for a couple of hours. And it's got to the point where there are certain levels that he will always beat me, and there are certain levels that I will always beat him.
Yeah,
with like a 5% chance that always doesn't count this time. So it's a lot of fun.
There's a game that my son William he introduced me to. It's called Spider Heck, and it's basically stick fight, but you're a spider, so you can crawl under things, around things, and you can play it competitively against one another, or you can play it against enemies as well. But there's no way of turning off friendly fire. So when you use a rocket launcher on the map, it can take your whole team out.
That was really interesting on No Man's Sky, the fact that the PvP settings are per person. And it's not, I want to damage people. It's, I want to take damage from people.
Yes.
So we immediately switch off PvP, except for Jelly and Mikey.
Yeah.
And then Jelly switches it off, which means that Mikey's the only one who can take damage. So we just spend the next minute shooting him until he changes his mind.
Yeah, I just went, Jelly, if you destroy my ship, you're helping me get the goddamn materials to get it up again.
So, assuming nothing goes wrong with it, Nightingale is due into early access in like a month. So, I no longer pre-order games, but if it's as stable as it looks on early access, and I can play it on Linux or through Proton, I'm down.
Daz has raised a very good point about that. Games are such good value, right? Even if you think about if you go to the cinema is probably the closest thing I can think of. In the UK, if you go to the cinema and you get a drink and popcorn or snacks or whatever you have, you're looking at about 20 quid for up to 3 hours if you're watching Oppenheimer.
But this is also like, you can get an amazing game that will cost you £5 or £2, and you get an amazing one that will cost you £60.
Yes.
And
you can vibe with games, right?
A game that costs you £60.
What? No. Oh, again. Sorry, I had Star Citizen in my head, a game that cost you £14,000. God damn, all these similar blooming names of games.
Yep.
Star Citizen, Starfield, Star Drop. I don't know.
Starbound.
Yep.
I need to get some food in me.
Yep. We have just gone over the hour, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
And my agenda worked. I'm so glad. Yeah, I won't always make an agenda. Sometimes it's fun just riffing. But I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for having me. I had a lovely time. Thank you for the cake and the ice cream.
Now, I'm going to propose that we come back in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay.
Rather than ramping it up massively every week. Despite it only being sort of like an hour long, it does actually take a bit of prep time beforehand and everything. And it does obviously interrupt evenings and stuff. So I think every 2 weeks for the moment as we're ramping up. Or maybe there will be other live streams is the plan, but it won't be like this. It will be we're doing something. Could even be a game, but who knows as we discuss it. But thank you for joining us this evening, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for having me, Mikey.
Yep. And I love the jelly and ice cream.
Yep.
That's what I've been slurping. Jelly and ice cream.
And jelly. Yeah, so I think we should do the thing now.
Well, press it.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
See you, everybody.